Okay, before we start coding, there's one thing I want to do. So I try not to stay. I try to avoid politics because honestly, I don't want to get in trouble for saying the wrong thing. But I have a strange feeling that the whole thing going on with GameStop right now is pretty safe politically, in the sense that, you know, everyone's opinions on it are probably aligned, unless you're some type of filthy rich investment banker or something like that, or some Wall Street tycoon or something. But anyways, I wanted to do something really quick, because recent news says that Robinhood makes it so that you no longer can buy GameStop stock on Robinhood, right? So you know it'd be what that means. Well, I thought it would be just amusing just to do something really quick. All we got to do is go over here, get some layer action going here, and let's see. So let's just take this and let's move that down. Let's keep it a nice bright line. Bam. Control A. Okay, move that down to where it makes sense. Right, like that. And now we don't know how to spell, so let's go over here. You might know where I'm going here. You might not. I don't know how to spell, so I gotta look this up. Nice. So Sheriff of Nottingham. I like how Sheriff of Nottingham came up here first. Let's snip that, right? Let's take that as well. Let's take that. And, let's put that over there. How about GameStop? GME stock. Oh, interesting. It's going down because no one can buy it anymore. So making it so you can't buy stock sounds kind of like, I don't know, sounds kind of manipulative. But it's all right if they do it, right? It's all right if they manipulate things. Yeah, so let's go like this. Let's just hack some stuff together here, right? Let's take this. Let's go over here. Let's just hack some things together, right? I know I should be working, but, you know, we're distracted, right? So let's open up and find GameStop. Let's put that in there. Let's kind of clean that up a little bit. I'm not a Photoshop expert here. I don't know shit about Photoshop. I'm just shoving some stuff together here. Let's make another layer. GME. Just put that. Let's just put that over here, right? Let's go. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Oh, I'm loving it. Okay. Hashtag, copyright McDonald's. Then, let's go rename this to Sheriff. And let's go over here. Sheriff of Nottingham. I know people don't like Monaco, but I'm a programmer, so I'm gonna make my meme. Despite my advisors telling me otherwise, I'm using monospace programmer font. Sue me. There we go. Let's actually take this, copy that whole layer, and let's make it kind of like backdrops text because, try to make that brighter. There we go. Done. We've made a meme. It's time to ship it. It's the first thing we've done start to finish for the last few months, so let's be proud of ourselves. Okay, let's save this. Okay. Let's go over to Imgur and try our hand. Oh man, so many memes. Okay, hold on. I don't remember the title, but the cover was red. Nice. Okay, yeah, so let's go over here and just add this new thing. I don't know what's going to pop up, so I'm going to go over here first. And desktop, delete me. Oh, never mind. We need to save this correctly. I don't think that was saved correctly. Yeah, we need to save it as a PNG. Yes, I want to replace it. Then we can also do a PDN copy as well. Okay, close that. Okay, so now that should work. Oh, also, it is not midnight yet, so I wanted to make, for the record, what the hell? Hold on. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. PNG. What is this called? This is called Robin Hood meme. So Robin Hood meme.png. Okay, what the hell? Why is this not working? Let's go to Facebook. Oh, by the way, push-ups. I already did all my push-ups for today. I'm at 500 for the week, but I did 130 today, so it's almost midnight. I can't seem to upload images. Oh, I see. 2 images uploading. I don't know what's with this. Maybe they're kind of big? Inquiries to free should not be limited solely to Robinhood. This is a serious matter. That was pretty messed up. Anyways, let's see if that's uploaded yet. No? 2 images uploading. What are we gonna do here? I guess we could change the size. I don't know. I'm gonna go on Midori and see if I can. Or not like that. Midori. I don't want fucking Bing to open here. Let's also look at paint.net here. And let's try to change the size. So Robin Hood meme. Robinhood.png, right? That means there shouldn't be any layers. View actual size. And let's just crop this stuff, right? So, so let's just take this. Use our tools here and let's try to make this smaller. So let's just take this. Let's steal this from here. Oh, steal this from here. Let's just kind of compress this a bit, right? Copy that. File new. Nope. So I don't know what I'm doing here, by the way, if that wasn't already obvious. And the escape key. Come on. There we go. There we go. Okay, let's try that. Let's try to upload that. Maybe by making it shorter, we can make this browse. RH meme 02. There, now we're good. Alright. Alright, so let's do this. So we've made the meme. We have proof that we are the first ones to actually do this. Not that we're unique in our thought process here, like everyone's thinking the same thing. So if everyone's thinking the same thing, I think that makes it a more powerful meme, right? Because I'm just putting into graphics what everyone's already thinking, so let's do it. Post it publicly. See if that gets us anything. 2 views. How does it get 2 views right now? Alright, we did a thing. Actually, hold on. So we didn't do a thing. We should go back here. Can we edit this? Are we allowed to edit? Oh. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Oh. Can we save it? I don't know how we save it. Okay. Well, too late. Okay, cool. So we did a thing. We've done our push-ups. We have slacked off and got distracted by memes. And the timer is, where are we in terms of stream time? So 20 minutes, so a 20-minute distraction. Okay, not too bad. So we need to think about a visual shader here. And I need to check my chat. I don't think anyone's in chat because very rarely anyone is, but let me check chat. So Twitch dash, let's go to the dashboard here. And let's check that, make sure no one's trying to talk to us, and also update the video name because is this Chrome? Yeah, I'm looking at this dashboard and I'm like, why does this not look correct? And the reason is that we need to open up and we need to use Torch here. I don't know why the layout is so different in Torch as it is in Chrome, but the Torch layout is what I really know how to use. I have no clue why that would be so different, but it is. So, Twitch dash, right? Because you saw when I went to that URL, I didn't actually see the chat, right? But if we go here, and we go to the dashboard, I see the chat. And maybe there's some type of cookies that memorize, maybe it's this tab here, maybe. Like Insights. No, I don't think so. I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, so we are on, what video are we on? We're on video 113. GLSL visual 01, right? So I think that's what we're doing. I could be wrong. We can put this up here. And I'm a little bit more motivated than yesterday, but honestly I had some ice cream with some chocolates. There's some caffeine and sugar in there, which probably helped. The exercise really doesn't the exercise probably helps you from being worse, but it doesn't really, depending on how you're feeling, exercise doesn't really help make you more motivated. It probably makes you more mentally clear, but it doesn't help make you more motivated from my experience. So, in here, we need to kind of figure out the logic for how we're going to write this shader code, right? So we got the shader string here, or the shader code, and we want to use different things, so for each, so for now, we're going to get the canvas user view coordinate, right? So we're going to say like language, or sorry, we're going to say that the int32 cov canvas user view ix equals, and it's just going to equal the fragment coordinate, the glfrag coord. glfrag coord something or other, right? So we look at glfrag coord, so this thing here, glfrag coord. So define frag coord, glfrag coord. And this is really kind of like yeah, I don't really like this define. glfrag coord. I'd like some other abbreviation besides that, like define. Now, this, if we do this, it makes it work with ShaderToy, but I think we're kind of beyond getting stuff to work with ShaderToy, right? So we got these different textures and things, It's going to be almost impossible to jerry-rig this into shader toy, I think. Well, I mean, we have different pieces of texture memory, so maybe it's not. So maybe we should still stick to frag chord, right? Because I do think I hate this. I absolutely hate this variable. It does not match how I do things. But if we want this to kind of just work out of the box with shader toy, then keeping it like this would make sense. So, like, if you look at shader toy for a second, and we look at a shader toy shader. Shadertoy.com. Now this might crash my computer because it likes to like load. Like, I wish they really just made some preview images or something, because this completely sucks. The whole like you know, having to have all those different OpenGL contexts load on your computer, or WebGL contexts, just before you can see anything. So this is pretty cool stuff. Let's, so if we look for frag chord, though, right? So, frag chord. Right, so it's down here. Alright, so the fragment coordinate that they are using is this thing. That's what it's actually called in shader toy. And so the idea is that maybe we want to make sure that our shaders kind of have a little bit of compatibility with shader toy by using these defines. And that's some really cool stuff. Like, got some shadows, and some of the people who do this shader stuff are just, they know what they're doing. Alright. So, yeah, so we could stick with frag chord, sure, just so that we can have the advantage of frag chord dot x minus 0.5. And when we minus 0.5, frag chord is... If we want to do this, then we need to do int32 make. If we really want to get this as an integer, right? Like we're dead set on this being an integer. We're gonna have to have some casts. Alright, so frag chord dot y minus this, and that'll work. Now the thing is that frag chord does not exist in this function, right? So if ndef not OpenGL, now we have to kind of declare this other thing that doesn't exist right now. So we can just say instead of a void argument, it might make sense that the one thing we really care about in the shader code here is the fragment coordinate, frag chord here. So I think we do this. We say fc.x, fc.y, and then we say fc if c99 is a fragment coordinate struct, and then GLSL void. So we just say frag chord. So right, so we could do this. So we could kind of emulate the shader, right? So that we can run it on the CPU side, and we can actually check the individual colors that are computed on the CPU side, right? If we do this, right? So FC is just, you know, frag color, right? And then what we do is instead of VA, right? We had VA for void argument or whatever, right? So VA right here. Well, instead of that, what we can do is we can just say Right under VA, we can go FC for frag chord. 13. 14, 15, and 16. So we got 16 arguments here. And then we can go back up to the top, right? And right underneath VA over here as well, we can do the same thing. So we'll duplicate, not this one. Control Z here. So underneath, so here we'll duplicate VA, and we'll duplicate VA right here. And yeah, so this VA will become FC for frag chord. Let's become FC for frag chord, and my focus is off. I think it's because I ate a whole, but I just got up and ate some sugar and chocolate. So I can feel like a moderate level of motivation right now, but then a lack of focus. I can definitely feel the scatterbrainness from having consumed sugar without anything else. It's like this thing where you can feel like annoyed and you can't sit still, and your mind literally can't focus. So we're gonna have to combat that by like drinking some water, drinking some tea, getting like a cheese stick or something. But yeah, so here, this is going to be we're running it as GLSL code. We're just gonna call it just call it just call it FC for frag chord, right? It's literally right, no need to get fancy here. FC for frag chord. 14, 15, and 16. And then down here, frag chord is just going to be nothing, I think, yeah? When running as C99, oh no, this is going to be, sorry, this is going to be, okay, you know what? We're gonna remove this. Hold on. So now that I realize how this needs to kind of be jerry-rigged together, to get this working, this is gonna have to be a 3-letter macro, right? So macro this, so 7-letter macros, 2 clusters of 3, and we're just gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to say like define TYP FC. Alright, so if this is OpenGL, and nothing, I think, and define var FC, nothing, and, or actually, yeah, this will actually be something, and define arg FC. So the var will just be actually no, this is too granular. We're just gonna call it arg FC and var FC. And var FC is just going to be the variable name fragment coordinate. So if it's OpenGL, this is what we want, right? And then over here, if this is C99 code, then we're going to define arg FC as struct, and then, you know, AAC 2020 P5D 1 OGL, right? And then it's an IVEC2, right? It's an INVEC, no, it's a FV2, right? It's a float vec. And you can use a float vec, right? So I have something for this argument either does not exist if it's an OpenGL shader, otherwise it does. And either case, we're going to reference var fc as fc, right? So var fragment frag chord, right? This is a float fragment coordinate. And either way, we're going to reference it. Now, this thing here, we need to figure out, well, where do we have this struct? I don't think we have this struct anywhere. So we're going to have to figure out where that kind of comes from. And do we have, like, the struct in here? So, okay, so we have the, so C99 and GLSL structs. So this is, like, the, is this not the polyfill section? So this looks like it's existing no matter what. So somewhere we have like a polyfills. So let's go look at yeah, this polyfills here is where we have OpenGL UVec4, OpenGL FloatVec4, and FragChord is actually a FloatVec3, I believe, with how it works. Now that I realize that, so like if we go look at this and say, you know, why is FragChord Vec3, right? It should be a Vec3. So, GL FragChord, in a fragment shader, GL FragChord contains X, Y, Z, and W. Oh, wait, so... Okay, so FragChord is actually a FloatVec4. Okay, I thought it was a... Whatever, so we're pretty sure that GL FragChord is, we only need 2 of those coordinates, but it looks like it's a FloatVec4. So OpenGL FloatVec4 here. We can just copy this right now, and some of these namespaces need to be kind of like refactored so we know like where to find them. But for now, we just want to get this working, right? So we're going to take this and say, all right, so this argument is either nothing if it is OpenGL code, but if it's like needs to be this polyfill code, then we're going to use this OpenGL FloatVec4, right? So struct FloatVec4, right? And so we're going to use it as a FloatVec4. And so then we have arg and var, right? So in this code here, right, we say arg FragChord, and then we say var FragChord, right? So void if OpenGL type. Oh, actually no. Arg FC. If we look at arg FC for a second again. Struct blah blah blah. So it's correctly designed so that it can be used. It's designed so it can be used as a parameter. Okay, cool. So when this is C99 code, then we have to add it as a parameter so that. Now that's kind of weird though here, right? Because now we look at this. So I feel like it might be easier, it might make more sense, right? We don't know where this is coming from, right? It looks kind of magical. So instead of saying arg, so saying type FragChord and var FragChord, right? Or it's actually an input frag coordinate. It's really called, we could call it in, right? So it's the, here's the type, and it's the input thing. And we could just call it FC. It could resolve to FC, or it could just resolve to input frag coord, right? Right, and then, right, why not just call it FC like that? And yeah, I think this makes sense. So type FC and in FC, right? So then when we go over here, we do something like this. TYP FC input FC. Oh, I see why that's wrong, because if we do this, then if we do it like this, then those both have to be zeroed out, but it still has to be referenced here, right? But not if we did something like this, right? If we did this here, so I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do this. So we could say type FC and in FC. If this is OpenGL, they just resolve to nothing. And then otherwise, we just use this, FC for frag coord, right? I don't know if that's gonna work. Because don't we have something for like GL? We have the fancy macros for like GL frag coord. So shouldn't this be like frag coord, like GL frag coord, like GL frag coord or something like that? It wasn't GL frag coord. What the heck was it? It was, oh, just frag coord like that. So define frag coord evolve. So these macros, nesting these macros like this, I don't know if that's going to work out nicely. Because we're going to pre-process this, and then there's the, when we replace this, I don't think it's going to get replaced twice. At least I don't think it does. So it might make sense to just call this here, call this that. That would be the safest bet to make sure this works, would be this, right? This is what it actually is, right? So we have this type and we have this input, right? So type, input, and then, yeah, so we could just say, here's the type, here's the input. Here's the type of the argument, here's the argument, right? And then, when we're trying to look at this input fragment coordinate and look at these things, we can do .x, .y, do that, right? And then int32 make is not actually a thing yet. So, we had like a fv4 make. So let's go look at where fv4 make is and make a int32 make, right? So, if we look for this, so right here, let's just go up here and say define float32 make, right? It's going to make it int32. Oh, hold on. Float32 make. It should be int32 make. What am I doing here? Int32 make. Int32 make. And this is OpenGL, so we're just going to say int, right? So we're going to use int as a constructor here. And otherwise, we need to say that define I32 make. And we're just going to keep the same kind of thing here, right? So AAC 2020 polyfill GLSL make I30. Something like that. And then we can go find the polyfills and say, hey, isn't this polyfills? Yeah, so here's the polyfill for make this. And we can do a similar polyfill for making a float 32, right? So, so this is going to be make I32, so make int32. And then we're just going to say make underscore I32 like that. Make it int32. And to make it int32, all we're going to do is we're going to take a... really, we don't know what's going in here. It could actually be anything. But if we look at our... If we look at our use case here, we're taking a float value, right? We're taking this float value and making it int32. So we'll just call it float32 and f32, right? So f32. And then this is going to be int32, right? So we're going to have an int32 called int32. And all we do is just say, you know, equals int32 cast of float32, right? So all we're going to do is cast it like that and then return it, right? So that's all we want to do is just say, hey, we're going to take a float32, we're going to input it and spit out this int32, and this is just going to be our hackish little polyfill function here. And so let's close this, because this is just a distraction. Yeah, so we have that. Also, we're screwing up our checksums here. Because 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? So you had this VA thing here. 15 things. And down here we said that, oh, we're gonna like make this FC thing. And we changed our mind, right? So these checksums, any checksum that contains this VA should be 15, right? So 15 of these, 15 of these, yeah, so fix that, we fixed that. And so now, what do we have to do here now? What's the next thing we're kind of missing? So we're hoping that we can get this, you know, canvas user view IX, canvas user IY, and right now this is naive does not account for camera position. To do actual camera logic and other. Right, so this coordinate here, this is not actually screen coordinates, but we're going to use it, we're going to map it directly to screen coordinates until we can get a basic shader working, right? So we're going to take a constructor, we're going to take that input fragment coordinate .x.y, and we're going to minus 0.5 to turn the fragment coordinates with the center pixels into discrete pixel locations, because that's going to make our calculations easier, because for different canvas user view locations, we have to do texel fetches on a discrete pixel locations. So that's why this is going to be like this. And for now, we could, instead of what we can do right now, right? We just want to get something working, right? With the new variables that we're kind of plugging in here and make sure that that kind of works first. So we could say, we could take canvas user view IX, and we could say F32 make. So you got to make it. We have to write this in a way that it's going to work both in GLSL and in C99. So that's why some of the syntax is going to look weird where I'm wrapping things, because the casting style differs between C99 and OpenGL. So we're going to have to do it this way. So we're going to have to make this into a float 32, and then we can take this coordinate and we can just divide it by, let's say, from 0 to 256 is where, or 255 is the whole range for this. So we could just divide it by that, and so we can get like a rough kind of square shape of what's going on there, right? So color is what? 4-dimensional, RGB and A. So we can do that, 4 dimensions. So we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, red, green, blue, and alpha. And this is going to be cov IY divided by 255. And then we want to make sure that we have float 32 make. So you don't have a float 32 make here. We have an int 32 make, but no float 32 make. So let's look at our polyfills again. So this is our polyfill for making it int 32. Then we have a float-vec4 make, but we don't have the other one. So let's go over here and see what we have. So yeah, we have float-vec4 make, int 32 make, but we don't have just a define f32 make, right? So if we just want to make a float 32, then in GLSL code, that's just going to be called float, right? We're just going to use the float keyword as a constructor style cast. And over here, though, we can't do that unless we have some type of polyfill for that. So we'll do we'll call this float 32 make. So float 32 make, right? And then over here, we'll just copy paste this, and then instead of I32, we're going to call this F32, right? And then over here, all we got to do is take this kind of code here, this polyfill code, and we're going to say, instead of make I32, we're going to change this to make F32, right? So anywhere it says I32, all we got to do is replace it with F32, right? So F32 here, F32 here, F32 here. Also, when we're making a float 32, we're using an int 32. So this should be int 32. Everything needs to be swapped around, really. So we're going to return F32 here. And yeah, we're going to turn F32 here. So this needs to be called F32, F32, and I32 goes in here, right? Oh, no, I32 is here. I32, and this is F32, right? So these don't match. These are like the opposites of each other. So everything should be inverted, right? So if we color I32 here, we color F32 here, and this is I32, and this is F32. If we color I32s and F32s, everything should be completely inverted, right? So anywhere you see a I32, you should see a F32. So F32, so all these colors should be completely complementary from these two different code blocks, and if they're not, then we have a problem. And yeah, that looks good. So so we have these kind of things, these little polyfills kind of stubbed in. They're very trivial pieces of code, but that's what we need if we want this to get working, right? So I32 and F32 are already defined down here, so that's good. Okay, so now if we look at this thing here, we got F32 make over here. I feel like it'd be nice to make this kind of shorter somehow, but I don't know how we're going to do that. In fact, I almost want to say that we need like a data-only class. Like a lot of stuff for like polyfills. It'd be nice to have a dedicated polyfill right, like this namespace is all out of hand, and the polyfills that we're making actually are going to apply to other subsystems, right? These polyfills are going to be pretty... these polyfills could apply to a lot of things. So, if you look at our agenda screen, which we haven't looked at in a long time, so 12 is actually done. 12 we just did. Like, we have finished 12, so we can mark off 12. But we're going to have a new 13. Create GLSL polyfills subsystem data only. Right. So let's make a note of this. So I think that we really do need some type of polyfills thing, right? Because we have this code that's all scattered like all over the place. It's really distracting us. And if we think about it, if we think about the purpose of the code, it would make a lot of sense to have a GLSL polyfill subsystem, basically like a data-only class that its only use is to store polyfills, right? Because these polyfills, first of all, the namespacing here is getting way too long, and really all it should be called is AAC 2020, some type of GLSL polyfills namespace, and then the different functions. Now, before we get that going, I think we want to do that, but before we do that, we want to make sure that we can just get this code compiling again, right? So, what we're going to do is we're going to keep on working towards this, and once all of this stuff kind of works, then we'll make that arrangement. So, first thing we want to do here is this thing. 1 is for everything on, right? So yeah. -1 is for all tests off, so I kind of just want to say all tests off, but actually the big main tests are already off, the tests that are really taking a long time. So I'm going to change this to 0, and we're going to try to run this. I'm sure I've made a whole bunch of syntax mistakes, but we're going to just try to run it, try to get it working. I know I was all over the place. That's why I'm pretty sure I've made a syntax mistake, is I was all over the place and making all... So that's very strange that I didn't make any mistakes, because I can feel my lack of focus from what I've put into my body. But I guess I got lucky because I probably knew I wasn't focusing, so I went slower, which is kind of a bad thing to say. That's like what drunk people say when they're like, oh, I know I'm drunk, so I drive safer. So maybe there is a little bit of truth to that. It doesn't mean you should drive drunk, right? So I think there's still truth to... I've put bad things into my body in terms of sugar, and I don't have any, like, proteins, and I need water and whatnot. And so my brain isn't up to par, but I'm self-aware of that, so I coded slower. But that's still not, like, that's not a good way to do things. Okay, so yeah, so the code is still compiling, so that means that it's valid. It is valid GLSL code. Now the thing is just because it's valid GLSL code does not mean that sorry, it's valid C99 code, but we have not cut and pasted this into the shader code yet, right? So we could take this and throw it into the shader code, only to realize that, hey, you made some type of really stupid mistake. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do this. We're gonna take this shader code, right? And we're gonna go open up the shader string here, and we're just gonna drop it in, right? We're gonna... Now, actually, you know what? If we... No, let's just do this, right? So this sucks, but this is how we're gonna do it. So we're just gonna paste this in here again, right? So we repasted all of the code, and we're gonna do this tedious thing, and we're just gonna make sure that it still is compiling as GLSL code. And then if it still compiles as GLSL code, we're going to take some time to make another subsystem that is dedicated to GLSL polyfills, and we're going to have to put it somewhere. Now, I don't know exactly where it should go, but we could probably put it by the other GLSL, the other OpenGL kind of define things. We could put it by the other OpenGL defines, because it's just going to be a data-only thing. Well, actually, it's not data-only. It's not data-only, yeah, because the polyfills include like a polyfill functions, and they also include polyfill data. So actually, it would not be a data-only thing. It's weird because the functions only exist as these like the functions have a very data-ish kind of purpose, where it's like they only exist as like little find and replace things. It's like a okay, so the indentation sucks there, right? We're off, but as long as we can get this compiling, that's what we mostly worry about. So let's take this. Yeah, so the functions, yeah, the functions are like utility functions rather than like system functions in terms of like, it's not system functionality, it's just like a function library, but yeah. So anyways, let's go into the mod folder. Let's delete this old fragment shader. And then let's try to run this and see if we made any screw-ups, right? Like, did we, as we made those new little macros, perhaps we screwed something up, right? And I know we only made a few changes, but yeah, so like we only made a few changes, but there was the potential to have screwed some things up. So undefined variable cov ix, undefined variable cov iy. Okay, so let's go look at that for a second. So I thought I was doing good, and then I screwed something up. So let's go look at how that works. I'm actually kind of surprised, but that's an easy one, right? Because we already know. Undefined variable cov ix. So that's actually very strange, because cov ix, cov iy, it's right here in the code. So why is that not? So I can be fairly certain that, like, if we look at it, it's like 1,400 something. So if we look down here, I'm going to try to look at 1048 or whatever. That's actually very strange. I did not expect it to be exactly correct. How is that? How is that right on the money? I did not expect it to get the exact line number. How did it do that? How did it do that? That doesn't make sense. Hold on. So when we pasted this, I think it's just a coincidence. I think the line number matching up like that is just a happy coincidence, I think. Because there's no way it knew. There's no way it's reporting back. Yeah, because I cut and paste this, so I think that's just a happy. I think it's just a happy coincidence that it is actually this is actually the line number, but that is not always the case. That's just me getting lucky. Now I'm kind of shocked here that it's like, hey, we don't know what the hell you are, or it could be this variable over here, right? It could be this one here. Another question is int32, right? We have int32. Define int32 as int or int32 type, so that should work fine. So I have absolutely no clue as to why this is like kind of saying screw you to me, right? So my initial thought is that it's, I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna go get some water really quick. Or something. We're gonna try to figure this out. I am actually kind of shocked by how it's saying it doesn't recognize this. Oh, hold on. Unexpected dot. Expecting at token dot. Okay, so there's some actual kind of syntax thing going on here, right? So there's some type of syntax nonsense, right? Where, like, we have... Yeah, because look at this, yeah. It's expecting a dot, and so something went wrong with the syntax. Okay, so I think that possibly our macros for I32 macro or the F32 macro or the I32 macro, maybe we define them improperly. It doesn't look like we've defined them improperly. However, so we got 7 macros here. I guarantee that we haven't undefined these correctly. So these macros here, if we look at these 7-letter macros down at the bottom of the section, we're undefining things. Yeah, we have, I don't think that this isn't going to fix it. FE4Mac bin and covey picks. FE4Mac bin and covey picks. So we're missing some things here. We were missing some things here, but that's not going to fix our problem, right? But for completeness of the code, we might want to put that in there, right? But I still don't know what's going on. I think maybe my macros aren't completely correct. So we're going to have to toy around and figure it out. And that's the reason why we're doing this in little steps, right? It seemed very trivial for me to be like, hey, let's just run this, even though we only added a little bit of code and are already compiled on the C99 side. We can see that something we've done is not translating correctly as GLSL code. We got to figure that out. So I am going to take a quick break, get something to drink or something, and then we're going to figure that out and kind of slowly work up this shader code. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's wait till the break screen finishes here. Okay. So yeah, let's get back to it. Let's try to figure this out. So we ate a cheese stick. We got some water. So the variable says undefined, but we see that we have some type of syntax here before that. So expecting dot, unexpected dot, expecting colon colon at token. Like, what the hell? First of all, colon colon. That's not a thing. I guess it's GLSL, so I guess maybe it has some type of C++ specific syntax. I have no clue what that means. Like, what the heck did I do? Because that makes no sense to me, right? So let's just say expected. Let me put that in here and say expected colon colon unexpected dot. So it's a GLSL error. Alright, so I have no clue what this is. You haven't specified a type for the varying frag color in the vertex shader. I assume you meant varying vec4 frag color, right? So, yeah, frag color might need to be... So somewhere we're not specifying a type, right? So it says we are forgetting to specify a type. And I don't know how that is, that we are forgetting to specify a type. But yeah, so it's saying we're forgetting to specify a type, which is a good hint as to what we've done wrong. The problem is that, well, let's look at this. So this is nothing, right? So, and this is GL frag chord. perhaps GL frag chord is... We got it wrong. Define frag chord as GL frag chord? No, that looks right. Oh. Frag chord and frag color. Are we kind of mixing those up? So this is frag chord. Did we potentially mix up what's frag chord and what's frag color? And this is frag color right here. And the input frag chord.x, input frag chord.y, that all looks fine to me. So we're thinking that this line is probably what's offensive here. In order to kind of fix this, I think what we can do is we can go in here and let's just remove that commentary. And for now, let's remove this and just say 1.1, right? 1.0. And we'll try to figure out the nonsense there that's going on right now. But let's not try to copy-paste the whole thing, right? Let's just go into the code where it's going wrong. And just say, like, right here is where we're going wrong. Let's remove this polyfill. Polyfill isn't affecting it. So let's just take all this nonsense here with the cov and the frag color. So cov and frag color. So cov and frag color. So this stuff right here is what we want to change. And we're just going to insert that, and we're going to see if that still breaks on us, right? And it's the cov. It's that cov variable that we're assuming is breaking stuff on us. So if we take that and we go into the mod folder and we delete this, and then we give this a run, we may still see a mistake. Unused variable. What the Okay, was this not just working? Was this not... Oh, yeah, because this thing here. Okay, we gotta put a little note. If we're gonna do this, we gotta put like a little no-op. And hopefully GLSL will be smart enough to compile that out if we forget to leave it in there or something. And I don't know if this is gonna work, but if it does still fail, right? If it still fails, then we know that the mistake is literally this right here. Like, something about this line is offensive. I don't know what it is, but the first thing we can do is we can kind of just remove that. Go into the mod folder, delete this again, and run it, and maybe there's the possibility that it's somewhere totally different, right? Where maybe we've made some other stupid mistake and we don't even realize it. But I'm pretty sure it's on that line, and something about how we have put this together is just not working, right? So that's working. We get the yellow screen because we got the red and green there. So yeah, something about this is just not, it's not happy with that. So the first thing we could do is we could stick to a C89 kind of style, right? And we could say, like, oh, we'll declare everything ahead of time, right? And we could give that a shot and be like, hey, is that the problem? And we don't think that's the problem, right? We think that declaring is not the problem, and that when we assign it, something about this macro nonsense is not, the macros themselves are not working properly, is what we think, right? So let's go in here and give that a shot. And, oh, hold on, we have to actually go into the, let's close this, or... yeah, we have to go into the mod folder, and we gotta delete this. This is just gonna be very annoying for a while until we can get this going here. Okay, yep, okay. So now that we have this, so still no mistake, so that's okay. So this int32 make seems wrong. Or it could be this infc dot whatever. But int32 make could be the mistake. So here, we're going to take this, we're going to put it on its own line. And the thing is that maybe, just maybe, it'll just work, right? Like, maybe the mistake was kind of like doing the declaration and the assignment at the same time, and somehow the macros just didn't like that. I don't know. I absolutely don't know. But we're narrowing it down very slowly, unfortunately. And we're going to see if that works. And if that doesn't work, the mistake has to be something in... It has to be probably the constructor, I think. I don't know. Well, let's just look at this. So I32 make should be... Yeah, so what does it say? At token dot. So this dot here is basically saying that this dot is not what it should be, right? So I'm gonna guess that in FC, oh wait, so in FC, it's nothing. This resolves to nothing if, when we're using it here, right? Because it's, because it is a, it's like a uniform, right? Like, if we look at the, like, GL frag chord, right? So, okay, I see what's going on here. So, this GL frag chord here, let's go look at that. So, if it's open GL, this is going to be absolutely nothing. And if it's C99, okay, I see. So we gotta rethink how we're doing this. Okay, let's go to the actual shader code, because we're gonna remake this. Okay, so I see what the problem is. I wanted to make this code kind of easy to follow, where you could say, so I wanted to make it so, like, here we could say, right, so this is GLSL. So if this is GLSL, this is going to be nothing, nothing, and nothing. Right, like if this were GLSL code, we would make a little table here. And this one's going to be nothing, and this one's going to be nothing. Now, if it's C99 code, if it's C99, then what we really want is we want to like right? It's a float vec4, right? Right. It's going to be a struct float vec4, right, the type, and I think we should just call it FC, or frag chord, I think. Actually, no, we should just call it frag chord, right? So frag chord, well, let's not fractionate our namespace. So right, we use frag chord like this. Frag chord evaluates to GL frag chord. So if we want the most possible compatibility with shader toy shaders, which we're still going to have some trouble jerry-rigging this into a shader toy shader, but if we want to be able to have that ability, then this is the variable right here that we're going to want to use, this shader toy flavor variable. Or not. Um, okay, let's not worry about the nuances of getting this to work. Let's not worry about the fact that if we don't do this right, it doesn't work as a shader to a shader. I think we may have burned that bridge long ago. Realistically, we've burned that bridge long ago. Let's not worry about that. Let's worry about making it work in our system here. So the input and then the argument name, the variable name, so type an in well, we could just call this frag chord, right? If we call this frag chord, oh, I see. We're not sure. I don't think the replacement works like that, does it? So hold on, let's make sure we know how defines work for a second. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but maybe we need to revisit that. So like if we do something like define int 32, right, is int 32. If we define right, now the question is, if we kind of chain defines like this together, is that actually going to work, right? Or is this just going to replace with this, and that doesn't work? Like the defines, I don't think bubble up like this. I don't think they do, but they might. So we might want to make sure. So let's go define I32. Right, so, or maybe it does, because we have, well, this defines to an int32 type, and this is a type def. But I don't think we can do this. So we can make a note, so int main void pedantic. Let's make absolutely sure we know what the hell we're doing, right? So there's the potential that we just don't know what we're doing. So if we say this, my int32, right, so just really basic, really doesn't really do anything. But if that doesn't work, CXX folder. If that doesn't work, then we know we need to be careful with how we do these defines, right? We can't chain our defines, so I don't think we can do that. So let's do, this is really research and development, and it's a define chain, right? We just want to make sure so we'll call this dc.c11, and we don't need this thing. We don't need this one. And yeah, so we'll take this. And if it doesn't compile, if this does not compile because of the way we did our defines, that's fine. That means int32 redefined. So hold on. So this is just a mistake in how I wrote the code. So let's fix that. So define int32 and then define int32. So we're gonna do this, right? So int32 is gonna be this int32 type. And let's put this over here and then include int32, right? Include i32. No, I don't. I do not actually mean that. Include int32 header. Include i32 header. i32 header. int32 header. Okay, so we know that this is the thing we want, right? So let's just put that in our notes, you know. Include we'll have it for next time. And int32. Yeah, so we just want to include the int32 header. God, it sucks when my shortcuts actually don't do what I want them to do. Define i32. So this std int, right? So we want to do include std int for int32 type, right? Okay, so if this... So we want to see if that works or not, right? Does this actually work, right? And see if this kind of compiles. So let's give this a run and see if that compiles. My i32 used uninitialized. No, that is true. That is actually true. So here we can fix that. So I guess the defines do chain, huh? Because it got all the way up to... I'm actually surprised. So once again, that also kind of illustrates my point why macros can do a whole bunch of weird things. I was expecting this to not to behave correctly. I thought it would look at this. I thought it would look at this, replace it with this, and be like, oh, that's not a thing, right? But it went from here and was able to go all the way up to here, right? And we can make a note of that. Like if we change this to all x's really quick, right? So that's an invalid type, right? I'm gonna try to run this. We're gonna expect, you know, right. So yeah. So when it expands the macros, it seems to actually go all the way up that chain. Now I don't know if GLSL does that the same way, but we're gonna assume that it does because GLSL is based on C99. But I just wanted to test that I knew what the heck I was doing there. So this thing here, we could actually call it fragchord, right? And if we call it fragchord, then we can use the word fragchord in our code, and we have less kind of like indirection in terms of what we're writing, right? So then over here, where we have, right? So this is fragchord right here. Then we can just say instead of calling in fragchord here, we don't want to call it this, right? Because it doesn't actually get that far, right? So we call it in fragchord, right? Like this. And if it is C99 code, this in fragchord comes through as a input to the function. but if it is GLSL code, it's actually just built in, right? So that looks like the fix that we need. So the first step is just to see, hey, if we give you a run, if we give you a quick run here, you're not going to complain that I made some type of syntax error, right? That's the first thing. And this nonsense that I wrote some pretty crazy nonsense over here. So let's fix this, right? I see kind of how I wanted to write it, but yeah. So we need to make a note of this. And maybe we want to make a little more obnoxious note than we usually write, because it's pretty important. This is pretty important, right? If it's GLSL, it does one thing, and if it's C99, it does another thing, right? In terms of how these macros work for these inputs here. So we have the type and the input, and the type and input seems kind of like maybe that's a little bit, maybe that's a bit too much, right? Like we could just make that one parameter, right? Rather than type and FC, right? We could have made them different things, right? Like we could have put all this on the same line, as the same define. But also it saves us some column space, so maybe let's not complain about that. But yeah, so let's get this running, and once it compiles, the next step is we're just going to take it, cut it, and paste it into the shader code, and see if the shader code runs properly. So we're going to go into our mod folder, we're going to delete the shader again. And then over here, we're going to nuke this all out, right? So this is the thing where we could really benefit from some type of build process. So save it like that. And then here's the code we've been kind of hacking away at, kind of like making small little changes to assure that it'll work. And before we even put this calculation back in, we just want some sanity that we've actually solved the core issue, right? So this is just going to be kind of tedious, but once we get on a roll here to where we're solving some of the main mistakes that we make, as long as we kind of solve every single mistake one by one for this rig, eventually we'll, hopefully, if we're very careful with writing our code, we won't incur as many compile time mistakes, and we will not have to keep on doing this, because this sucks. So we're gonna, yeah, because this might be something that we want to figure out how to automate with a bash script, but for now, \n. Okay, so it's all plugged into there. The shader has been deleted. We're ready to rerun this and see if the shader compiles or if it complains at us, right? So we're gonna hope that it just compiles, that we haven't done anything stupid. And a syntax error. So this makes me want to flip a table. Just wow. So okay, so let's look at this. Implicit cast from int to bool. Undefined variable frag chord. Okay, so let's close this. Close the program. Cancel. So undefined variable frag chord. So int to bool cast thing. So we see frag chord. Oh, frag chord lowercase. Yeah, so that's where we screwed up. So this is why I absolutely hate that variable name, right? Because if I try to use this in my code, well, guess what? Oops, I made a mistake, because frag chord is, I made capital here, but it needs to be lowercase, right? And that distinction really trips me up. So, you know what? Okay, let's I think we gotta burn some bridges here. I think that, yes, it would be great if we could It would be great if we could get this code working as GLSL code. Like, that'd be great and all. But the fact of the matter is that this is just annoying me, right? Like this frag chord thing here, because it's not working because, oh, I got the case wrong. Let's not, I don't want to deal with that. So I think right up here what we're going to do is we're just going to say define FC for frag chord. And we're not gonna worry about it. The whole thing about, like, oh, we need to make sure it works for shader toy, I think that's gonna be screw it, right? Because this kind of variable nonsense with these uppers and lower cases, it just makes it harder for me to get the code correct, because sometimes the uppercase and lowercase c, or different upper and lower cases, they're very subtle in terms of if it's what you're using or not. So I think that what we really want to do is we just want to say FC for frag chord, and then instead of using frag chord anywhere, right, like this nonsense here, we're just going to say FC, right? So FC for frag chord is the variable name, and then over here, we just want this to be FC. I want this to be fc.x, this to be fc.x, right? So FC, right? So let's look at this. So FC is itself a macro in terms of FC gets turned into GL frag chord, right? Which means that this FC is actually GL frag chord, right? That's kind of what we're assuming here. Well, let's just see if we can get that running and try to get rid of the GL frag chord thing, because that's just, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with every once in a while making a stupid mistake because of camel case variable names. I hate camel case variable names. I think it's good sometimes for, like, function names. I think it's good for function names sometimes, because you're expecting camel case with the function name, I think. Or at least for me, I'm expecting camel case. And I like the visual difference of a function versus a variable. But for a piece of data, I want to know if it's a variable or a constant, right? Constants are all uppercase, and then variables are all lowercase, right? That's kind of how I think of it. So let's go look at this shader here. And let's give this another shot. So we're going to go here, and we're just going to take all this, and then we're going to paste it. And now in here we have this FC thing, right? So it's now fc.whatever, right? And we're going to hope that that's correct. We're going to delete these shaders that are cached. And we're going to think about our life and think about the bad decisions we're making in terms of this workflow here. And try to figure out if we want to get a better build process here, because this is starting to get very annoying. So I think some type of bash script to copy this stuff might actually be a very good idea right now. But the other thing is that we want to do this by hand first before we write a script to do it, because we want to fully understand the implications of what we're doing in a bash script. And we've noticed that, you know, as we've done this by hand, we've noticed simple mistakes like accidentally... God, that scroll is so utterly slow. Like, it looks like it's going fast, but if you look at it, it's actually going really slow. Like, it's like going... like, what the heck, man? Okay, so we've made that change, and we just want to get this thing working. That's all we want to do. Right, so make a little change, run the code, make a little change, run the code. We just want to get it working because, well, I mean, working code is the #1 priority, right? So let's try this. Let's hope it actually works, because I'm getting very frustrated. Syntax error. Great, great, great. What now? Implicit cast from int to bool. Where? 1044. So first of all, Implicit cast from int to bool. Are you serious right now? So it's saying that something about this is a implicit cast from integer to bool. Like something about this. And I don't know what that's all about, because I sure as hell don't use any booleans in any of my code. None of my code uses booleans. I don't use the bool keyword. Like if we look at my code, so let's put this in search right now. So look at this for a second. That is infuriating, because if we look at any of my code, there's no bool keyword anywhere in here. There's absolutely no bool keyword. Nothing in here. Nothing in here is a boolean. Absolutely nothing. It is a boolean. These seem to be related to shader compilation on NVIDIA drivers. Well, this is NVIDIA, so there we go. It appears NVIDIA drivers are not strict on implicit conversion. Have to be explicit here with bool floatcast. And it seems NVIDIA drivers require shader version 420 with relevant extension explicitly enabled. I can't fix them myself at the moment, as my NVIDIA machine is currently out of commission, so I can't test the compilation. Okay, so there's some type of implicit type conversion thing here, and it thinks it's a frickin' bool. Okay, so somehow we know the one piece of code that we're doing this with, right? We know that it's like this thing here. This thing here is supposed to be int32 make is supposed to make it int32, right? So if we look at int32 make, it has int, right? So if it's OpenGL int32 make. So the best thing I can think of in terms of like what's going wrong here is that it thinks that it thinks it thinks this no-op. It thinks the no-op is a oh, it thinks this is a bool here. Got ya. So if we want to, okay, so if we want to fix that, right, we could just do this, right, equals, right, okay, I see. So it's actually my stubbed in kind of stuff here, right? This is where the bool is happening. I'm not using bool, but I'm using it in here, and that's where it's happening. Okay, I see what's happening. So that's still kind of infuriating, but it's good to be able to look at that message and know where it's coming from, right? So let's go look at, I'm gonna go look at this again. Yeah, so for implicit cast into bool, change Alright. Okay, so I think I know what's going on. I think that's the mistake. So let's not go and have to cut and paste the whole thing again. We know that this is the mistake, where if we say equals 2 equals and a 0, right? And then over here, let's just close this. We haven't been using this for anything. So 2 equals and a 0, and then this no op, right? So 2 equals and a 0 and a no op, and we're thinking that that is the thing that's going to fix it, right? So let's go over here into the mod folder. Let's delete it and see if we can get this running. Delete. And then let's go over here. Let's run it, and I think that's going to fix it. And it's just the thing is that no op only existed for temporarily getting things working, so that kind of sucks that it was that temporary, yeah, it was the temporary oversight there. Okay, so now the next thing is we can take this thing that we commented out, right, and we can see if we can get that working, right? So we can just put that back in, go into the mod folder, we can delete this, and give it a run again, and see, hey, is this going to compile, right? Is the shader going to compile, and are we going to see kind of like a different color, because we're going to have this like mapping going on, right? So we're going to hope that, hey, nice. So we got like right up here, like in this bottom corner, that is working. Now the problem is that this frag chord, if you haven't noticed, it is not in the upper left corner where we want it. So what we might want to do is just say like this. We might want to, here's what we might want to do. We might want to go like this. So we know that so these locations here. So this is getting good. This is getting to where we want it to be. We're really close. The canvas user view, whatever. But we know that the y-coordinate needs to be somehow inverted. Now, the only problem with inverting that is we need to know the eye resolution, right? So eye resolution, right? So we actually have that, right? We already have eye resolution, so we can look at that up. So eye resolution, right? So eye resolution. And if we want to flip things around, then all we need to do is take the y and invert it. So eye resolution dot y, and we want to take the highest value, right? So if the resolution is 5 by 5 pixels, the highest value is 4. So eye resolution minus 1. So we're going to take eye resolution minus 1, and then we're going to right, we're going to invert. We're going to invert it, right? And then after we invert it, we're going to minus the 0.5 to turn it into a center pixel kind of coordinate, right? So that is the math we think we need to do. So now that we've made that change, what we're going to do is we're going to just take this, we're going to copy it. We're going to go to where we actually, so above these no-ops, right? So above the no-ops, we want to just paste this new code here. Right, so we're going to kind of do it in this kind of hackish way so we don't have to waste time kind of like scrolling through all the code to cut and paste it and redo it every time. But yeah, so we just changed this one little bit of code here. So if we have any mistakes, it is this code here. We'll go into the mod folder. We'll delete the shader. And we'll give this another run and say, hey, can we get this running to where the black is at the upper left. So eye resolution.y is not defined. Makes sense. Okay. So we got to think about, well, how are we going to get that? And the problem is here, right? Eye resolution is not defined because it's nowhere in here, right? So we need to think about how we do eye resolution in terms of so I'd say that we need some type of function that retrieves the eye resolution somehow, right? So if we want like a polyfill for this, I think the easiest way would just be to like call it like RY, resolution Y, and AAC 2020 we call it poly OGL, so poly OGL for polyfill OpenGL. And so I'm thinking that we want to make RY, like whenever we reference RY, we just make it a right? We make it like this. We make it like we could make an actual call to this polyfill function. And then here we could use RY here, right? So we could just use... But for now... what we're going to do... to keep this kind of simple... Alright, so we're just going to say iResolution.y. So RY right here is going to be iResolution.y if it's compiled as GLSL code. And otherwise, RY for now. The resolution Y, we're just going to hard code it as like something like, we could hard code it as... Yeah, we don't really know. We could hard code it as 512, right? 512 might not be correct. But we could just use that, right? That also needs to be like 512.0, right? Because this is int32 make. All this should be float, right? So this is a float, this is a float. So this needs to be like a 1.0. So yeah, let's try to run that. Let's try to compile that. Make sure it compiles correctly. RY undeclared. Oh yeah, because we got to define RY, right? Define. So we're going to make sure that compiles, and if that compiles, we're going to hope that we wrote it correctly and that we can just kind of shove it into the shader string, right? So we think that's good. So now we're going to just take everything. We're going to take everything from the no-op to the beginning, right? So we're going to take everything from here and just paste it into here, right? So everything from the no-op to the beginning of the function code, right? So this stuff right here, paste that in there. And we can keep a little bit of visual space here, right? Right, so we can do this. And so yeah, so we can give that a run and see if that compiles. And then what we're gonna need to do is it's about time to create like a polyfill for OpenGL. OpenGL polyfills kind of namespace, right? So this no-op stuff, we already have this. Let's remove that. Okay, so let's go into the mod folder. Let's delete this again. And let's give this a run and see, hey, did we do this simple inversion calculation correctly? And it's not going to be completely correct. Like, it's not going to look completely right because we just stubbed in the I resolution as 512. Yeah, so it looks like we got lucky because I'm going to guess we initialized the screen to 512 in height, but that's not always the case, so we have to unhard code that, right? But before we unhard code that, it would make a lot of sense to create a polyfills namespace where we keep all of our polyfill data and polyfill functions, right? Because these polyfills, right now, we're kind of putting them in this P5D namespace, but all these polyfills that we're writing actually are going to apply to more than just GLSL code, or more than just the PAINT5D shader code. So we really should have one centralized place for polyfills, and we really should make that kind of its like own thing. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do git bash here, and so okay. Yeah, so like everything is all scattered over the place, and it's obvious to me that we need another namespace for these GLSL polyfills. Now, I think I want to take a break and do this in another video, but we'll get to it, and we'll say that this video was GLSL shader visuals, right? So we made very small changes to that GLSL shader. We're trying to figure out how to get this working, and so some of this is just going to be kind of suck. But yeah, so this is GLSL shader visuals, and I'll be back. But when I'm back, we're gonna do OGL polyfills, poly OGL, I guess is what I'm gonna call it, because OGL, standing for OpenGL, seems to be kind of how I've been doing this, right? Because we got this P5D, like in our system names, we got P5D OGL, right? So OGL seems like the kind of system name we're gonna use. Yeah, so polyfills. We'll call it poly OGL for polyfill OGL for OpenGL. And we'll be back.